Okay, let's call the meeting to order Thursday, October 31st, 10 o'clock. We'll start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Wagner,
I'm here.
Commissioner Stacy,
Here.
Commissioner Zerler.
Here.
Okay, let's sign the journal, and is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right, old business.
I don't think I have any old business.
Okay, Nicole, any old business? Holly?
I was gonna look it up, but do we know when Odette was gonna, how the things went with the study? Did they get any requests in?
You know, I've been
I
thinking,
think about it the dumb times and I can't ask and I
yeah,
didn't.
is if anybody's got Todd Odette's email address, because I was gonna do it yesterday, I just drop them a note, because they were saying that sometime around the end of October, 1st of November, they'd have it done. I don't wanna call him, I thought if I just drop him an email and see how we're progressing with that. Does anybody here have his email address?
I got his business card.
I'll send it
Good,
to you
okay.
real quick.
Yeah, if you would send that to me, I'll drop a note, that's a good point, Holly, and
I was just curious,
I'll
cause
follow up on that, 'cause-
they haven't awarded the study yet, did they?
no.
Or were they they weren't doing it? They were putting the request out, is the way I understood.
Yeah, and then before they award it is when they're gonna bring a representative of each county together and get our insight on, you know, what specifically we're looking for, and then at that point, as I understand, at that point, award the
Okay.
contract.
I kept thinking something was to be done by the end of the year, so I was just curious.
Yeah, well,
It's
no, they
probably
actually,
awarded, but-
Todd told me it was sometime the end of October, 1st of November, that they'd be in a position where they're gonna invite us in that.
Okay, just curious.
Okay, any
Yep.
other old business?
No, that's,
All right, we're ready for new business.
Okay, I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations for the general fund. Request is from CP1 and CP2, $30,000 into their indigent console. They said their trials were up this year. I know Commissioner Zoller had talked to the judge about this, so, I guess.
Yeah, if I can elaborate on that now, is they've had, what they say, 15 court trials this year. I guess the trial last week was in excess of $10,000 is what they felt it was costing us, so they're running short on their indigent console fund, and they just need this additional cash to carry over. They think it may be a little heavy what they went, which they would give us back at the end of the year, but they wanted to make sure that they weren't cut short. That's the word that I got, and
so that's two.
it's just because there's been an
Yep.
exorbitant amount of trials this year.
This
It
comes out of
costs more money.
come out of the unappropriated balance. Okay, what's
I
next?
have an appropriation adjustment for the hazardous materials fund, 150, moving $1,500 from supplies to contract services. I have an appropriation adjustment within the Workforce Investment Act Fund, 066, moving $16,857.43 from shared cost to contract services. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriation for the EMA Fund 102, putting $15,000 into contract services. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriation for the general fund, putting $14,573.20 into machinery. That's getting the purchase order around for the tractor approved last week. And I have a resolution authorizing appropriation adjustments within the general fund. There was a few extra amounts that we needed. Remember, we brought in two, I don't want to call them interns, but summer help for that program. They reimbursed us, so we needed to we paid them out of the maintenance salary line, and we got the reimbursement, so we needed to put a little bit in the salary line. But instead of just pulling it off our cert, we're cleaning up some of our accounts, so that's why there's,
Okay.
so. I have $5.17 from other expense to salaries, $26.50 from supplies to salaries, 7 cents from contract services to salaries, $3,968.26 from workers' comp to salaries, $2,603.36 from workers' comp to contract services to jail, $662.17 from contract services to the jail, $9,030 from contract services to contract services jail, and $212.17 from other expense to contract services jail, and $27,492.30 from contingencies to the contract services jail line, for a total moved $44,000. And that will get us through the rest of the year for the, that's all in the maintenance, that's for the utilities, just for the jail.
Contract
Last-
services jail is utility.
Utilities, yes. Yep, and that will get her for the rest of the year. I think the last amount we moved was just in her regular contract services, so.
Now, does Diane pay that, or do we pay
We
that
pay
through
that,
maintenance?
we pay that through maintenance.
Okay.
Is that additional appropriations, or that was already budgeted, we're just,
It's additional appropriations that we're pulling from our other accounts.
Places where we didn't use it all, we moved to places where we under budgeted.
okay, so there's no negative effect on
Right.
the general fund here?
Correct.
But it did come out of contingencies and various other places. Contingencies is kind of what we set aside for this type of thing.
Incidentals.
Yeah.
I have a resolution authorizing an appropriation adjustment within the SFY 14 Community Corrections Fund 181, moving $1,009.38 from contract services to hospitalization. I have a resolution rejecting all bids received October 8, 2013 for this CSB asphalt project. Mark is working to redo his estimates. Since it was over the 10%, we will have to bid it out after the first of the year, so they're ready for right at the beginning of the year. I have a resolution amending section 5.13, health insurance of the Seneca County Personnel Policy Manual, effective January 1st, 2014. This was another section that referenced our full-time employees, still had 32 in it. There was 2 sections, the one we did last week, 3.03, and then this one was another section of our policy manual that we needed to amend, so it says the 30 hours instead of the 32. And that's all I got the, do have the notes. These are on the agenda, so. Let me find the titles. Okay, I have a resolution providing for the issuance and sale of a $910,000 note in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to provide funds to pay cost of installing energy conservation measures in the otherwise renovating, remodeling, equipping, and improving county buildings and facilities. This is redoing or reissuing the note we did in June. We wanted to keep those at the same date as our other note. So we did it in June, so we're gonna do it now so it stays on track with our other note. And I have a resolution providing for the issuance and sale of the $306,000 notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of renovating, remodeling, refurnishing, equipping, and otherwise improving buildings and facilities, and improving and equipping their sites to house various county offices and functions and other related offices serving county residents. And this is for the 306, the remainder of one of our original notes.
This is a rollover.
Just a rollover, yep.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, discussion on the above items?
Yeah, I just need to have an understanding of the Palmer Energy contract that we had with them, which is this, basically this 900,000 and so forth that we've spent this year. In that contract, was there some sort of guarantees that we would see reductions in our energy costs that would help us defray or pay this cost? I mean, what kind of bite was in that contract? Because why was it was the previous board that that entered into it, and I'm supportive of it, don't get me wrong, but I'm just,
Right.
Jeff, maybe you can
I
refresh.
can't remember his wording on that, but I think you asked him that one time, and no, there are no guarantees. There are no, that you will save, there were estimates, there were no specific guarantees. Honeywell and some of those groups will give you specific guarantees, but they've got all sorts of, only if you don't have any work overtime and all these other things that really don't pan out. I don't remember just his explanation of that. You'd have to talk directly to Earl on his explanation. It was a very good explanation, but I can't tell you what it was.
Yeah,
Do you recall?
I just remember that there was no guarantees, because a lot of the companies will come in and make guarantees, and that's what he always told us to watch out for, is they may guarantee a savings, but it's from 8 to 5 exactly. If you have somebody come in early and turn the lights on, then it voids that guarantee. Or stay over 10 minutes, it voids that
So
guarantee.
the guarantees are really not a guarantee.
What was the projected payback on that? Was it a 7-year?
I think it was
I believe
7.
it was 7.
7 is what I remember.
I believe it was 7.
So we should save roughly 120,000 a year, so forth, in our energy consumption of the buildings, and roughly speaking, what's our energy cost for all the buildings?
Well, we have 2 purchase orders open. I think it's about, our maintenance budget's about 900,000, so there's not even 100,000 for salaries. So the rest would be utilities and a few supplies. So probably 700,000-800,000 just for
Pretty good. Yeah,
utilities.
they're projecting a 10% savings, over a 10% savings to be able to pay it back.
Yeah.
Plus, the other thing was like that air conditioner heater unit over there was on its last leg. We had to do something anyway.
That was 300, because if I remember, Palmer was 600,000 or 525 or something like that, and the difference between 525 and the 9 was kind of the upgrades.
Was the, I forget, I've got them in my room there, but I don't remember. But a big chunk of it was that HVAC unit that had to be replaced anyway.
Mhm.
And same with the roofs, you know, they had to be replaced anyway.
And some of the money came from the CDBG for the air conditioning.
Which we haven't
unit.
got yet.
Correct.
Right, but we
Yeah,
will.
they have to wait till the project's completed. So once all these are completed, then we should
If you
hopefully
want a
start.
specific list of questions for him, we could send it off in an email and he could respond with specific answers.
I know that I asked him once before, and
He did.
I didn't remember exactly what he said, but it, you know, every time that we appropriate
Yep.
funds for that, I always
Yep.
like to see, what
Yep,
was the
yep,
payback?
yep,
What was the
yep.
payback?
Yeah.
And I think the comment was made at that time that we would need to take some of that utility savings and increase our
Note payment.
note payment.
Yeah,
in upcoming
we
years,
budgeted
in
in
the
the
budget
future year.
time, yes.
Absolutely.
So instead of the 40 or whatever we've been paying, we need to increase that based on our projected savings
Savings,
for the
yeah.
year. Is that what we?
Oh, I would,
how-
yeah,
how we
I would
numbers
very
it?
much think
Yeah.
so.
Okay,
That would be
okay.
good.
Okay. Other questions on these resolutions? The one I wanted to ask is, I don't know if it's an ask or it's a comment, but when we rebid that CSB project, we want to be sure and do that pretty early in the year so we get them when they're hungry. And the striping for that, is that part of the bid package or is that separate?
I think it's included, but I will check Mark's specs just to be sure.
Okay, we want to be sure, I've had a few questions about those handicap spots that aren't exactly ORC or whatever
Yeah.
administrative code that is. So we want to make sure that they're bid correctly
Mhm.
for the new striping on the
Yeah, because
handicap spots.
with the anticipation of redoing the parking lot, we just had our maintenance go over and make the parking lot bigger. He did go out to JFS and measure specifically one of their handicap bus, or not bus, van spots. And he used that measurement up here, but we were gonna wait until we got the
Yeah.
actual parking lot done and then have, but I will check to make
Yeah,
sure.
make sure it's in the specs, if they do it in the specs. If
Yep.
they don't do it in the specs, we just have to make sure we do it right
Okay.
when we do it. Any other questions, comments? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Zoller,
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitmer.
Yes. All right, any new business? Or any other new business?
Would you like me to read the proclamations I have, or you guys just want to read those on Sunday?
I imagine we'll read them on Sunday.
Okay.
You can tell us
Yeah.
what they're for.
I actually have 3 proclamations. I have a proclamation for the Eagle Scout Troop 444, and also a proclamation for Travis Gates for his work that he's done on our cemetery, so you guys can read that.
And what's the
Sunday.
third one?
And the third one will be for and I hope he knows about it, because I don't want to remember the date
Veteran
on
of the
this.
Year. Yeah, I did see it
Veteran
in
of
the
Year.
paper. It is public knowledge
Okay,
now.
okay. It's for Joseph Buckley, Veteran of the Year, so I'm assuming one of you will attend that, and
I'm planning on attending it.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
send mine
on the
in too.
9th of November. We'll take that with us and we should present it to the award winner that night, whatever they want us to do.
I'll be out of town.
and that's all I have.
I didn't know if anybody else was attending the Terrace grand opening and dedication ceremony for their conference or hospitality center, I guess. Because I'm at RSVP, if
Okay.
either of you are
I
going, let me
don't
know.
believe-
Yeah, I don't think so. What date was that? I remember seeing that yesterday.
November 14th.
Now, are you gonna present these two?
Yeah, I'll be glad if
Okay.
that's what you would like,
That's
yeah.
fine with me, so you wanna hang on to
Yep,
those?
yep.
Or put them where you
Yep.
remember where they're at? Once you sign them. And the other one, we'll just make sure we get, either Holly or I takes it that night and we'll get that received. Okay, any other new business, Nicole? Mr. Zoller?
No, all I wanted to do was just kind of update everyone. We had our first meeting last night of a potential museum board with the foundation, the Historical Society, and along with 2 appointed citizens, and then myself of it. I'm telling you, it went extremely well. There is a tremendous level of cooperation that, from what I understand, has not existed in the past. Not ready to ask or to do anything. You know, we're still putting this together, and because of sunshine laws and so forth, that I've inquired to have, I've asked them if they would search out my fellow commissioners and talk with them on the proposals individually, and then at that time, we could make perhaps make an overall suggestion how they can move it forward. But there is a real level of cooperation with these 2 groups that is just, I was amazed. I was a little apprehensive as I went into the program. I thought I'd have to wear my catcher's face mask or whatever, but that was not the case, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
That's-
Other new business?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, other than, I do think
Hold that
it,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Holly.
I know, I
Ladies
didn't have
first.
one anyway, I didn't have anything anyway.
Ladies
I was just
first.
gonna say,
You know,
none.
We talk about expenses, you know, revenue and expenses of the year. And I'd like to have a definition. We have expected revenue of 15 million and expected expenditures of 16.2. I mean, it goes back to the old adage, you can't spend more than you make, type thing. And I hear Commissioner Wagner loud and clear on that, but government accounting is not always the easiest thing to get your hand around, and there are grants that we have to take into consideration, you know, what other funds are coming that are not part of the revenue right now, that's part of that figure. I'd like to have at a high end an outline of that so I can understand, and you know, we see these, you know, unappropriated or supplemental appropriations and so forth, and, you know, I just see it today, we got 30,000 for one, and we got, you know, 44,000 for another. You could easily eat up $1 million real quick, but yet, the one, as you mentioned, Commissioner Wagner, well, that's coming out of another fund. I'll tell you, government accounting, it gives me a headache. Put that in the paper too, I'm quoting me on that one. I just would like to, at a high level, if we could ask Tanya, look at the budgets as they were approved, and by state law, we have to have a balanced budget. Okay, well now all of a sudden, we spent 1.2 million more than we brought in. I'd like to just have an outline of, at a high level, I don't need all the, but, what departments where have we went over in those things? Is that possible?
That'd be based on that paper that we talked about this morning. The
Is that what-
expect, just had three figures on it, where we started out the year
Yeah.
after adjustments, and then current. Where did we go over and how much of that is coming back, like in a grant? Is that,
I still think it's gonna show the expenses being over because we're using some of
using
the,
carryover.
we're using carryover, so that's still gonna be kind of skewed because the revenue is purely
This year's.
this year's revenue.
Mhm.
They don't include any carryover in that figure, but I can go through the original budget and I can see,
Just what items we went over with that we've had to put additional, what do you call
Appropriation
them?
in.
Yeah, appropriations for it.
yeah, the spreadsheet Tanya sent out just, was it a week ago? It shows each and every appropriation we have done throughout the year and what it was for. That shows, that's how she calculates hers to make sure it matches the auditor's office, the certificate of funds that we get. And she does that little spreadsheet that shows all the appropriations we've done so far and any adjustments they've made. I can
But that's
look,
that detailed one.
yeah,
I don't know what the date is on it that I have.
yeah, probably,
I
The
think,
first column is just the budget and then with the adjustments in it.
yeah,
So if we had already moved X amount of money to that, that's in there.
yeah, yeah.
would it be not too hard to say, okay, here's what everything was at the beginning? I guess we didn't, we don't even need to know what everything was at the beginning of the year. The sheriff, we appropriated 200,000 more than what was originally appropriated.
Bingo.
The court one, we appropriated 15,000 more,
Okay. Yep, I can do that.
including like courthouse, the 300,000 for the courthouse, because
Okay.
that.
Yeah, and then which of that is coming back in grants? How many grants, dollar-wise, are we yet to receive that would shore up the revenue side?
And this is just general fund, correct?
Just general.
Just general
yes,
fund,
yeah.
just general fund, yeah.
Okay.
I
do
just-
that.
That wouldn't be too hard to pull off of that, would it?
No. Nope. If you just want the department and not specifically the.
Yeah, not
they-
a much
I don't
for
know.
The,
cleaning supplies and this and that, just
yep,
per department maybe.
If
Okay.
they spent more on paper towels than what, that doesn't, looking at department-wide. I'm just trying, I'm sorry, because being a
No,
newbie, I'm
that's
just
okay.
trying to get my hands around, trying to understand it, so that when we get into the budget process and so forth, I mean,
As we're spending down our carryover though, or excuse me, I don't want to use carryover, as we're spending down our unappropriated balance, you're gonna have that phenomena of spending more than the revenue.
yeah, but equally, revenue was up, is up, and I know this year, when I looked at taking special things on, when I was supportive of special things, I always looked at, okay, well, ICE was up here, so that kind of covered there, and, I mean, from a high level, I always kept in my mind that, well, if we spent here, I didn't spend it until I knew that this was over. But now all of a sudden, see 1.2 million over, that bothers me.
Sure.
So
And
I'm just trying to get my hands around it,
and
I'm sorry.
I think our revenue, other than sales tax, might be adjusted a little bit. And I'm sure the sheriff will have another payment come in. He'll be well, but it's not gonna be a huge amount that we're gonna expect changes for the rest of the
Yeah,
year. They did
yeah.
make some adjustments, and I think the sales tax will come in higher, so there might be a small adjustment there at the end of the year to help, that shows the revenue a little closer to the expenses, but there's not gonna be, the Budget Commission is doing well with keeping those in line, and they made some adjustments last time, so.
I'm not looking at
Next
the revenue
adjustments.
other than grants writing. I'm
Okay,
looking at more the expenses that went over, excuse me, what
Okay.
was budgeted. At a high level, and I'm sorry to ask that.
nope, that's fine, I can do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, did you have anything else? I don't know if I asked you or not. Okay.
One other thing.
Okay.
Go with the phone stuff.
We talked about the new phone system and the annex and the Oh, what do you call your, I call
RTA.
it the old
RTA.
RTA building, I'm sorry, I'm an old timer, I call it the bank building, whatever. And I'm working to get buy-in, and I've got buy-in of a couple of the departments in there that they're willing to pay for the physical phones. So, and those are about $225 a piece, so if they got 5 phones, they would contribute from their other funds. Now, I haven't got buy-in from everyone, and certain departments have to check at the legalities if they can do it or not. I'm not mentioning any names, but they're in the meeting.
Every time you come
Good morning,
in.
Julie.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay,
So
good.
we're trying to get that to offset. And did you get a final opinion?
He says that he'll honor that cost. We
Okay,
just got-
the buy one, get one free? and-
Yep,
He will,
he will honor that
Good,
cost,
good,
yep.
Good, good,
We're
good.
just recalculating, make sure we got enough phones, and then but he said, same price.
There was some differences on the amount of phones the first time versus this time, so they're
Yep.
trying to clarify that.
Yeah.
So that would either that 28,000 is a real figure, or the 24,000, but it's not that they went up in cost.
Right.
It's, if we still get the buy one, get one free, there's some dissension as to how many phones was needed, and that's what they're trying to clarify.
Yeah,
Okay.
he had quite a few
Have
more.
mine.
We don't wanna increase the number.
give mine
of
up.
No,
phones.
oh no, no,
Okay, I don't think we need more phones, and we've got a bazillion phones.
No.
Yeah.
no.
But again, if some of those departments will at least help absorb the cost of the physical phone, we'll put the infrastructure in and all of that, and we'll,
Okay. Okay, anything else? All right, Kathy, are you here for the software thing too, or are you something else?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
excited about the discussion.
All right, well, we'll let the software folks, do you have any sort of presentation or comments, or?
I have a script.
A script, good, 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 good.
You want me to come up here?
Please, don't touch the candy.
Just saying, after your presentation, you can have some candy.
I can be rewarded, is that what you know? Here is the quote that was reviewed and updated last night. Okay. Well, good morning. Thank you for allowing me to come over this morning. As you know, the county is currently using Software Solutions, Inc., or SSI, as the fiscal payroll provider. The county's last investment in financial software was back in 2003 with an installation in 2004. The current system was a canned system, or is a canned system, meaning basically the product came out of the box and is used that way. So no real additional features or enhancements to the product at that time. So basically, the county made an investment for an inexpensive, at that time, product. The cost in 2003 of the current system was approximately $33,829. The county invested $6,000 in September of 2011, 50% of that going towards the server, and then also making the investment so the county departments could view data remotely via a web-based application or dashboard. Your staff uses it quite frequently. Kathy's staff, all the departments have access to that. So you can see there hasn't been a whole lot of investment with software upgrade or purchasing new items since basically the original, totaling the two is about $40,000 from 2003. The quote I have provided you is from SSI, is for an $85,000 upgrade. The investment cost could be spread over 3 years with 0% interest, with the exception of some support costs that would have to be paid at the time of installation. And we do have an annual support fee. The current support fee is $14,155 to add these additional components and cover the additional users to the system would increase the support an additional $9,000, increasing our yearly support to $23,283 for the year. Now back to the upgrade itself, or to the quote. If the county decides to pay the cost up front, they are giving us a 3% discount. Also in the quote, you can see because of the level of support we're currently at, we do get a benefit from the assurance discount, which is 20%, and that's itemized on each of the components in the quote. So that is something we're already taking advantage of. The fiscal software is made up of 4 components. We have our financial management, which currently has 5 concurrent users, asset management for 1 single user, payroll 2 concurrent users, and treasury management 1 single user. So we would be going from 9 users up to 25 concurrent users, basically covering our staff as well as allowing for the additional departments to be users as well. Sorry about that. Okay, while our vendor has not commented that they will no longer support our current software, we need to be conscious that as technology changes and vendors offer new products or enhancements, the resources that they dedicate to the older product is limited. Therefore, they're not investing any new features or any enhancements. We're just going to be getting by with what we have. That is one of the things when you don't stay up on technology. A few of the highlights that would appeal to the departments. The payroll could be submitted timely, remotely. Timing is not an issue for the generation of reports. They can generate as of date or period. Assets would be monitored on a timely basis. It enables the county to continue going green with paperless processing. Users can work in multiple years or periods. Travel time from the outlying departments to the auditor's office would be greatly reduced. Document preparation would be reduced, as we could do it all electronically, or the majority electronically. We would gain efficiencies, retrieval of reports and processing data, being able to fulfill public records requests on a timely manner. Just to give you an idea as to the volume of documents this office processes, looking back at January of this year, which is a very busy time of the year for this office, as in your office, with the balancing and closing of prior year-end books and getting the books ready for the current year. We processed over 1,000 checks were issued in January. 640 employees were on payroll. 325 employees were on insurance, so the new, well, the deductions would have been the previous month, but to monitor all that, 400 plus purchase orders processed, the majority of which you guys had to sign, and 75 plus contracts were put in place for the county. So you can see that that would be a time saving on your end and on our end if we can gain some tools to make the process smoother. As you know, Job and Family Services is in need of replacing their internal programs as they have become outdated. They're well over 15 years old. And speaking with Kathy, she has commented it would be a good tool if the county were to make the investment. If they were to invest in their own internal system, they would probably be subject to a monthly support cost, whereas if they were a part of our county, the support cost would be minimal if they use some of the components that we have for their processing. I have had numerous meetings with department heads and users educating them on this software and getting their feedback. The responses have been positive, such as Opportunity, or MRDD, is 100% behind the software. Even though they have their own system, they can see a huge benefit to the county and can see a potential cost savings within their department. People are wondering how soon it would be available. They like everything in one system. It's a step in the right direction. Others wanted pricing and licensing information and had questions about training. So it was a good combination of feedback. I have spoken with other counties that have been on the VIP system and have received positive feedback from them. Several of them have been on for several years. Fulton County, which is just finishing up, I think it was last payroll for them, bringing on their bigger department, the DD department, to do the remote payroll. They've had a lot of luck and good success with that. One of the items that has been a comment in every audit is disaster recovery. It's not if, but when a disaster happens. It's bad enough that you're dealing with the disaster, but as the chief fiscal officer, it's my responsibility to make sure that funding, asset tracking, and other critical functions are in place to aid in a recovery process as quickly as possible. This would allow for a cloud backup for disaster recovery up to 250 gigabytes, and that cost is the $3,742 included in the quote annually, and it scales from there. So if we'd find we'd need bigger than 250 gigabytes, the price would fluctuate from that. I have spoken with another county this summer who received 4 RFPs to upgrade their fiscal payroll department. They're requesting the same or similar features as we got quoted in this packet. They range from $402,000 to $498,000. But since we're a current client and have the support level that the county invested in back in 2011, we do see that 20% discount. And I guess I just finally want to say that with any upgrade or enhancement, there is the potential for a project overrun, but I feel that the risk is very minimal in this project as we've tried to address every scenario or situation that may come up. Do you have anything for me?
Thank you.
Julie, if I may ask, okay, 84,000 is the cost of the software. And then I heard you mention about 22,000, 24, is that for support work that's on top of this?
Yes, the quote is for the product,
Okay.
basically, or the software, but our yearly support currently is
That's what we're currently
$14,155.
paying to
Yes,
support the antiquated, let's call it the antiquated system we currently have.
correct.
Okay.
With adding these new components and all of the users, it would increase our cost $9,228.
That's where you're coming up with the 21,
Yeah,
22,000.
23,383.
So we're just looking at the added cost, because 14 is a given, we're already paying that right now.
Right.
So to go with this new system and the added features and the support to be able to provide this, would be an additional 9,000.
Correct.
So we've got 85 plus 9.
But that 9 is in the service line versus, I mean, I'm trying to think where that's coming out of. I mean, do we need to upfront that now? Is that money?
Our current support renews, I believe, this month, so it'll renew at the 14,000. But then as they add components to the system, then it would be subject to the support at that time. So that's due at delivery, basically. The additional, and for instance, the biggest added cost would be a department time entry and the employee self-serve, where employees could access their payroll information, make changes, or send emails addressing things remotely through a secured site. That's a $3,300 yearly support increase just for that component. And the department time entry. So that right now we're all working off of the paper in some fashion to do payroll entry. This would all be electronically, whether the department head would data enter it or they take it down to the level of the employee to enter their time and then have layers of approval.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we'll cost allocate. And are we going to be able to get that into the Maximus thing? How does that work? I mean, in terms of when does that hit? Because
It would be after
that would be the
investment.
software, but not the
Right.
maintenance.
I-
I mean, or how does,
Yeah, I talked to Bob real quickly about that, and he did some preliminary things for me. He took, of the cost of this, he looked at 55,000 of it as being accounting related, and took that and, based off of the number of transactions, he percentaged that out per department.
okay.
For non-general fund departments. He looked at the staff for that, or the people count for payroll, and did that. And then he also looked at it versus transaction based, or did it as an expenditure base, and came up with some numbers. He took it out over a 5-year period because of the life of it.
I think what we had said the last time was our preference, and I hope I'm not speaking out of order, was that the non-generals would pay up front. Is that a possibility?
I have sent emails just really this morning because I knew you were going to ask that, Jeff.
That's kind of, isn't that what we discussed last week?
It's
Yeah, I think we can discuss
To be equitable, as Bob discussed during the Maximus presentation last week, I mean, you could use the cost allocation numbers to arrive at that, but that's looking at 2012 data. I mean, it's very hard for me to say, okay, well, this component is just gonna be, you know, you're gonna pay 5,000 of it, you're gonna pay 2,000, because it's all gonna be user, unless you break it down by user to the bigger departments.
He had a way to do it. I mean, there was some data, and I don't remember just how it was, but he had a way to do that was fair.
He used the 2012 statistics for transfers and expenditures, or
Okay.
transactions and expenditures, and he's come up with some amounts.
Okay.
And I apologize, I've just got my mock-up copy, I didn't have copies for you.
But instead of 1 year up front, he did
He
5
did it, the
years.
cost, yeah, over a 5-year period. Now, I guess one could maybe look at that and say, based on this information, we would like to see this money up front.
I guess I don't, I mean, if we would project ours out over a 3-year period, why would we make the non-general fund accounts pony up front, pay up front? I mean, what's the advantage of that? To put more, we would be putting more pressure on them, and we're trying to alleviate the pressure off us, so we want to extend it over 3 years.
I think
What's the advantage of?
I think we also discussed at the last meeting that we would probably pay, if there was any discount, we would probably pay it all immediately. And there is a 3%
It's,
discount.
yeah, about a $2,500 discount.
So that, this does not show that
No,
discount.
it does not reflect
Because
it
that's not,
You said there's a 3% discount.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the overall
Yeah,
project.
$2,500 and 85,000.
You'd rather pay it over 3 years?
Yeah, I personally would rather pay it so we don't hit the budget.
I thought you were the guy that wanted to pay it all up front.
That I recall. Now, I mean, if it was a higher discount than that, I would consider, but 3% is not, 2,500 is not a,
Yeah, you'll notice the footnote on the payment plan, they want 10%, or on the quote, 10% due with the initial PO if it's executed in 13, if the project or the contract is, and then 30% due at the start of 14, and then 30% in 15 and 16.
Well, if we were gonna pay it over 3, my preference is to have the non-generals pay it in the same time period we're paying it. Is that possible? Is that possible for you, Kathy?
I haven't seen what that is to us, but the truth of the situation is if this doesn't happen, we're gonna have to go out and procure something anyway. So I'm probably gonna put out money anyways. So I don't think that should be a problem for us.
Okay. Thank you. And what percentage is job and family of the,
well, we're 55,000 is accounting, that strictly would be used, so we got 30,000 would be elsewhere, but that's probably split up with a couple different departments, non-general fund departments, I would think.
Right, I mean, we would have to look at each of the special projects that they have within and see what they are. I mean, he has given a nice departmental type breakdown addressing that,
Yes.
so.
Certainly less than 30,000, and that would be over 3 years, so.
I mean, just to give you an idea, based on a $58 million expenditures that the county had in 2012, taking it out over the 5-year period, that's $14,000, and that's all of the funds.
Run this by me.
yeah, you kinda lost me too.
Okay. Over $58,000 in expenditures, using the 2012 snapshot.
$58,000 with the expenditure.
58 million,
Million,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Of expenditures for all county departments.
Okay.
Based on 2012. Taking the 55,000 that he looked at for the accounting portion of the quote, spreading that out over 5 years. Based on the expenditure, it would be 14,850.
For
That's all funds.
all.
So it's not a lot, you know, if you break that down between each fund, it's not a great deal of money.
Do you have any thoughts, Holly, go through it?
I have a question back into the time clock interface is still on here. What did he say about that?
I didn't go back with him because I did talk to a couple departments. I talked to Kathy's staff this morning to see if they're using it. They use a different time accountability. I haven't heard back from the sheriff concerning if they have a time clock, if it could upload into it. School of Opportunity definitely has that feature,
Oh, okay.
and it would be a valuable.
Okay.
I
didn't know
for
if
them.
anybody
So
was
that-
using one. I thought, well, no sense in
Yeah.
having that if we didn't need it.
Yeah.
I don't
So-
think the sheriff does.
I don't think the sheriff does
Think
either,
so.
but I could be, but School of Opportunity I didn't think about, so.
So, and one thing that Stacy may pick up on in the code, and I just want to clarify it, we are currently using the VIP dashboard, but that's under the eGov application, so there would be a little difference with that to go to the new platform. That's why that cost is in there.
Does this take care of the redaction issues?
Yeah, it allows for a lot more flexibility.
We explored any grants to help defray some of the cost here?
I think I had asked, but it's been a few, maybe back in 11, to see if there was anything available. And typically for government, they don't have that type of money available. I can certainly ask again.
At the beginning of the year when you guys had brought it back up again, I had asked Jill and she said there was nothing she could
Get our hands on.
nothing she could find. But that was the beginning of the year, but
Well, we're really in a situation here that, I mean, Job and Family, they gotta do something. And it just seems to me senseless to go ahead and put a Band-Aid on a situation that we're not far from, being forced to do something, and then that may get you by for a short period, but then we go ahead and we bite the bullet, make an investment, and throw your investment down the drain. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. And I'm sorry, Jeff, I don't recall saying that paying it up front. I mean, I would strongly recommend, something like this be extracted out. I mean, in a business environment, if you got a lot of cash, you get away from taxes, then absolutely I pay up front. We don't worry about taxes in government. We collect them, not pay them. So I would feel to the contrary. Now, if they wanted to throw a 10%, discount in there, then I may feel a little differently, but 3% a year, I mean, to me, it's not, and unless we were in a cash-rich situation, which we all know we're not, I would advocate very strongly that, I mean, and the impetus behind this is really your department. I can't see spending any money for a short-term fix. And you're at the end of your rope of what you can do with the system you have.
Yeah, it's taking a lot of resources to keep it running, and it just seems, like either if this happens or some other solution, it would be more cost effective, which, and to Julie's point, I mean, we certainly hear in my association, we hear the governor say he's interested in shared services, and this seems like a kind of nice shared service to me personally, so.
Yeah, and you're willing to pay for some of it too.
Yeah,
So,
we're willing to
I mean-
pay our fair share for that.
I know we did talk about paying it all up front, thinking we'd just as soon get the cost out of the way before we knew what the discount might be or not. And since this is coming, I was looking at this, if we did it and we could do it with still keeping some carryover in what we were projecting at the time and knowing about the phones and other things, wondering if we can do, because we just spent $30,000 in a digital console, we didn't know was gonna come our way. So if we looked at maybe we can either follow this payment plan, whatever anybody thinks, or put 40,000 down on it, a little bit more than just the 10% down or something. I don't know if that helps to, I guess I'd like to lessen the burden over the next few years, but whatever makes the most sense financially.
just a question I just
We just
thought
need to,
of.
I just think we need to move with it, so.
Would this expenditure be ran through 215? Could this be ran through 215
And defer to Mary Jane.
as a
Capital project.
capital improvement?
Normally we run it through the general funds, our computer line as equipment.
I was just thinking that we do have revenue there for capital improvement projects, and that was one where we were looking at phone system is running through that.
And would, a portion
I don't
of
know
it,
what-
such as the data recovery value or some, I'm just thinking out loud.
Normally, all our software is paid out of the general fund. There is a line that says computers. Auditor, something, I can't think off the top of my head what it is, but that's what the mainframe has always been in for the accounting software.
Software.
Can it be though?
We would have to go back and look at the capital asset policy for the county,
It
look
probably
at the
could
fund
be. We
creation
would
documentation.
do it as a,
I mean, we can research that.
Okay.
it probably could be, but, yeah.
That would help
double check
lessen
it.
the burden.
And one other question I had, and you touched on this, and I didn't pick it up correctly, that the total supporting cost for 2014 and 15 and 16, how much is it gonna cost us in support each year for this?
9,000 more than what we're currently paying.
And I had the conversation, and I failed to document that or to revisit it. Early on, I had the conversation with the vendor to see if they would hold support costs at like a 5-year cost, so that we wouldn't be changing every year, so we know 5 years out where it's 23,000. And I didn't update that information today. I definitely want to go back and research that.
Okay.
But yeah, it would be
But
that
what
increase.
it's what we're paying now, plus another 9
Yep.
every year.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea, Jeff, my REA yearly support, and that's cloud backup and all of that monitoring. Of course, it's not apple-to-apple product. It's like 85,000 a year.
Wow.
How much?
Wow.
85,000 a year.
Is the 9,000, does that have the
This was
cloud
what-
amount in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because these were a bunch
Well,
of
no, the
questions
cloud
we
is there, so
fired
take
back
it
at
out
him
of
in
the
the
cloud.
email.
Okay.
So obviously
that
those
would be
came out because they weren't, she wasn't doing that part.
Okay.
And this user thing changed, so you can't add that up, but this is the amount she quoted,
Okay.
23,383, right? Is what you had.
Right.
Yep.
And Stacy
Which
did make
already
a
was
good
there.
comment. The 37 would have to come in, that's on the cloud backup, which is like the last item listed, because it wouldn't be in the support, because it would be paid under the quote, it would be that coming in. That includes the hardware, everything.
All right, let me ask the board, would it be okay to make this decision Tuesday? Let them look into whether it can, 215 can be used rather than 010. And if it is possible that the non-generals pay on whatever schedule we decide to do with our own.
I'm completely on board with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm completely on board.
That's
Could
fine.
you find those two things out, I guess? Whether use the 215 and whether the non-generals could pay on the same schedule as?
Yep, and I'll also add to that the 5-year support to see if they can hold that cost at that.
That'd be
5
great,
years.
yes, okay.
Does it normally go up a little bit each year?
It hasn't since 10, I want to say, 9 or
But
10.
again, could have.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep,
you.
thanks for all your work on that.
Thanks, Julie.
Take a couple pieces of chocolate.
All right.
And then take the basket and share.
I'm just watching Superman up here.
See through my disguise.
You took glasses up, that did it.
I gotta make a few notes here before we go on, or I'll lose it.
Software is one of those necessary evils in today's life. You know, we wonder where the cost of government, the cost of everything is going up. 20 years ago, what did we budget for software? Probably 30 years ago.
Didn't have computers.
Yeah.
Well,
Didn't have computers back in 2005.
Holly
Yeah.
Stacy's father-in-law made the comment when he was commissioner, they went over $1 million in a budget.
It was very expensive back then for
And
then
we
for
were
software.
14 million plus now. They went over $1 million.
Yeah.
The software back in, when I first started, it was ridiculous because you didn't have the technology, you know, it was all mainframe driven and you had to depend on your vendors so much. Where now technology is advanced, where it's more user friendly.
Are we a better society for it?
I'm gonna leave that unanswered.
That's gonna be more conversation than we got time for here.
Okay, any public, or anything else on the computer issue?
No, I just wanted to thank you for your time.
Well, thanks for all that. That took a lot to look into. Any public comment today? All right, anything else from the board at this time? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned at 10:54.